Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and in this video let's talk about the story of the descent of Inanna to the underworld. So I'm not going to read for you all the text because it's very long. You can find it by yourself, and I suggest for you to read it from the book Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth, Her Stories and Hymns from Sumer by Diane Wolkstein and Samuel Noah Kramer. Every time we are reading an ancient text, we can have many interpretations to a particular text. Now, I'm giving you my own personal interpretation from a very esoteric point of view and how I'm using this text in my magical works, in my magical transformation, and this is basically how I understand the text. Now, there are many interpretations to each of the texts. Everyone can have his own personal interpretation to any mythological text. So this is very personal in my opinion, and of course we can have, our scholar interpretation, and we can have some assumptions, but I think overall each of us need to view the text from his own personal perspective. Now, I view the goddess Inanna as the goddess of life, as the goddess of life force and life itself. So, in the mythology of her descending to the underworld, it can basically show to us the transformation that a person is having when he's dying. This is some algorithm or instruction or some explanation to what is actually happening when we are dying. Now again, this is only one interpretation of the text. Maybe you will think that this is not applying to you and you are viewing the text in a different way. In my opinion, the descent of Inanna to the underworld is, from an esoteric point of view, is speaking about the death of the physical body. This is one of the interpretations. In my opinion, it really shows to us what is actually happening to our body when we are dying, to our body, to our spirit. And from a magical point of view, we can use this text to understand how to transform ourselves, how to reach our inner core. Now, Inanna is going to the underworld with some attributes, with some jewelry, with clothing, with a crown, with her powers. And when she's approaching the gates, she needs to get dressed and get rid of each clothing or item that she's having. So she's going through 7 gates, through those 7 stages, and she's removing each of her clothing or attributes that she's having. She's removing each of her powers. Now, in magical understanding, we can use that story when we want to transform ourselves, when we want to reach our deepest core, to understand who we are and reach the state of nothingness in occultism. Now, you really need to understand me because maybe not everyone will understand, but the point of this myth is to reach nothingness at the end. This is a very difficult feeling, but it's something that is very important to have and to feel. So basically, as in death or as in magical transformation, we are removing our personalities, our power, our assumptions, our persona. We are removing all of that from ourselves. And we are going deeply to our true core, who we really are. This is a very difficult process. It's not something that is easy But if you are in the occult, if you are in the magical sphere, you will understand this. So there is this time in your life when you need to get rid of all of your fakeness, your persona, your triumphs that you had in your life, and everything that is masking your true core. All of those things, all of those outside things that you're having, like the metaphor of jewels or crown or robe, you need to remove that. And when you're removing all of your personalities, all of your things that are masking the real you, you can reach the deepness of your soul, the deepness of yourself, the deepness of your true core. And this process is very important because no matter what are you thinking, no matter what are you thinking about yourself, which titles you're giving to yourself, there will be this process that you will have to eliminate all of this and come into the state of nothingness. When Inanna is going to the underworld, a rich Kigal attacks her, she's being judged, and she basically do not have any life force in her, and she's hanged on a hook just as a flesh. So she was alive, she had all of those powers, she removed all of her powers by going down and going through each gate. Then she's coming to the underworld and being attacked, and now she has no life force and she's basically rotting flesh. So in a magical understanding, this is something that is really difficult to understand, but it is a process that you need to understand with yourself. Come into that darkness in you. Sometimes it is difficult to understand that you are just a piece of flesh, but it's something that you do need to understand. I mean, we are living, we are excited, we have life force, we have goals, we have destinations, we have triumphs, we have some social titles, but overall, we all going to die. And the end is not so glamorous. I mean, it can be very depressing, when we're thinking about that. It is a very important understanding that you need to understand in your magical transformation. Come into that understanding. Go deeply into your darkness. Go deeply into yourself, to your own underworld, and understand that only when you are removing all of your fakeness and titles and powers, only then you will understand who you really are. Only then you will understand the real you, without any distractions, without any influences, without any titles or something that is chaining you or holding you back. Only when you're going through that transformation, you will realize who you truly are. This is something very deep, very mysterious. This is not easy. This is a personal death that you need to have with yourself. In the magical world, in the occult world, you need to go through your own personal death. This is very, very important. This is the process when we are going deeply to ourselves, when we are going to our own underworld, and we are understanding who we really are, and understanding also the meaning of life. That every power that you're having in this world, every blessing, every throne or achievement, eventually when you're dying, is not worth anything. So it's something that you always need to be aware of. I know it sounds very depressing. I'm not saying that you don't need to have accomplishments or something like that. Not at all. We just want to understand the myth. We want to understand the text from a very esoteric perspective. This is also a very depressing state. When I wanted to understand this myth, I I came into this understanding with myself that this is a very, very depressing state when you are in your own underworld, when you understand that basically you are not that you are nothing, but this state of nothingness, this state of new beginning, this state of reset. This is how I will call it. It's a reset state. It is a very, very interesting state to be in. Now, everyone is different. I was in that state for a few days or a week, but then I got out of it. But it was very, very interesting state to be in, like the state of death, the state of nothingness, the state of a reset, the state of nothing is matter anymore, or understanding of life and death, that we are all basically just, pieces of meat at the end. All empires are falling at the end. Everyone who is on a throne right now, he will fall eventually. Nothing is ever stable because there is seasons, there is change, there is life and death, death and life. Everything is a cycle, everything is changing. This is a very interesting state that you need to understand. No need to be stuck on anything because there are seasons, there are change, there is life and death, there is movement and evolution in everything. And Inanna is the spark of life. She is life itself. This myth is showing to us what is happening to us when we are going to the underworld. The most important thing that we can understand from this myth is to dive deep into ourselves and to be honest with ourselves. When Inanna is going to the underworld, it's a metaphor of honesty. And this is something very difficult to do in magic, in occultism. When you are going into the state of honesty and realization. Who are you? Who are you without your friends? Who are you without your parents? Who are you without your spouse? Who are you without your clothing, your social status, your persona? Who you really are? Are you really worth something without all of those attributes? Do you worth something? Sometimes the honesty is very hurting. Sometimes in that state we do understand that we are needy, that we are attached to a lot of things, to social status, to some egregores, to some trends, to some people. And this is a very, very difficult realization. This is the main understanding of this text and this magical transformation that you need to go with yourself. Do you really worth anything? Who the hell are you? Without all of those attributes, without the help, without the people, without your connections and your attachments, do you really worth something? Are you needy? So after you're having this realization, it is very difficult, it is depressing, it is shocking, because in that state you actually realize that you are maybe needy, attached, you're not independent, you're not capable of something or capable of something. And this is the state that you really need to look into your own eyes, into your darkness, into yourself, and be really brutally honest. Brutally honest. Who the hell are you? Also, in this state, you can also have beautiful realizations. You can actually understand What do you really like? What do you really need? Because this is a state when you're eliminating all the outside noise, when you're going to the underworld, when there is no attachments, no neediness, no people around you, no attachment to anything. There is no social media, there is no validation, there is no anything. So you can actually have a lot of realizations in that state. It's a very difficult state. It's a state that you have to go through and to be honest with yourself, to look at your own darkness. And the judgment of the judges of the underworld and the attack of Erishkigal, of Inanna, is a symbology to your own judgment. You need to judge your own self. What do you worth without all of that people or attachments? What did you really accomplish? Did you accomplish things by yourself or by neediness or by, I don't know, other methods or by attachment? You just really need to understand yourself fully and to look yourself in the eyes and be very, very honest with yourself. This is a moment of truth. You will have a lot of realizations. After that transformation, you will understand what you need to do, how you need to act, what people you should, remove from your life, what situations should you already get rid of from your life. And this is a time of rebirth. This is a very beautiful transformation, very deep, very mysterious, very dark, very difficult, but it's very rewarding at the end. It can also represent that the body is having these 7 phases until it is becoming completely dead and rotten. There are some teachings about the ethereal bodies, or we can view this also as 7 chakras, because there are 7 gates, and basically one by one is shutting down. When a person is dying, one by one it's shutting down until all of those 7, I don't know whether those chakras or ethereal bodies or energies, when those 7 bodies or 7 energies are going away, there is total death and transformation. So as we know from the myth, Inanna is arising from the dead. She is a goddess, of course, and life is moving forward. There is no life without death, and there is no death without life. So Inanna is resurrecting and she's coming to life again. And also this is very interesting because Inanna is going to the underworld. She's dying, and at the same time when Inanna died, Erishkigal, the goddess of the underworld, is pregnant and she's giving birth. Then Inanna is rising to life again. So this is a myth that is explaining to us basically the cycle of life and death. We are dying and then we are reborn again. So this is a very beautiful and deep, mysterious mythology. I am only speaking from my own personal perspective. You can view this myth as you want, as you feel like, and everyone can have their own interpretation, and which is okay and great. We also can view this mythology as a personal death and transformation, and as a personal trauma. All the people who experienced some trauma in their lives, they also can relate to that myth, because you have to go through that inner underworld. You have to go through your own darkness and be born again and rise again to heal and to transform. Now, if we are looking at this mythology from a traumatic perspective, we can understand that the trauma hit the person And although he's reborn again, there is this transformation, but still this mark of the underworld will always be on that person. Just like with Inanna, she's going to the underworld, but she's marked, because everyone who is going to the underworld, he cannot just leave. He needs to bring something in return. So this is basically the sacrifice that the person is having, or the sacrifice that the goddess is giving, which is her husband, the Muzi. Again, this is another way how we can view the mythology, because this is so deep and mysterious and beautiful that we can, go very, very far with this. So I like to view this as something magical, as a magical transformation, is a very interesting state of life and death, of personal rebirth, of also healing trauma, because this subject is very familiar to me. So this mythology can give us a lot of help and understanding. Also, I forgot to mention that actually Inanna already have the ability to go to the underworld. In the previous myth, if you did not watch those videos, you can go to my channel and watch them, about Inanna and the God of Wisdom. Enki, the God of Wisdom, is already giving Inanna the skill or the ability to go to the underworld and also to rise up from the underworld. So Inanna is smart. She's not, risking herself. She knows that she have those abilities. She knows that she have this permission to go to the underworld and to rise up from the underworld. Those are the abilities and the permission that Enki gave to her. So she already knew that she will rise up from the underworld, because she can do that. This is also a very, very brave aspect of the goddess, especially the gods who are dying and reborn again. Those are very interesting gods, and especially if you're working with those deities, with those gods, you need to go through also your own personal death in your life. You have to go to your darkness. You have to go to your dark side. You have to go to your inner underworld and to be in that state, to feel that death energy and that death state, and to transform and reborn again, to understand that aspect. So this is a very interesting myth. Again, if you want to read this mythology, you have it also online. You can purchase that book. Also, I wanted to mention that there is differences with the Assyrian Akkadian Ishtar descent to the underworld, because this is a Sumerian mythology with the goddess Inanna, but we also have an Akkadian or Babylonian Assyrian mythology with the goddess Ishtar. They are very similar, but there is differences in the text. Overall, the Akkadians, the Assyrians, their texts about Ishtar are more brutal, in my opinion. They view the goddess even with a bit of disrespect, in my opinion. But the Sumerian mythology is more stable, in my opinion. So anyways, thank you for watching. Follow me on Instagram on magicalkey666 and support my work on Patreon. Please write in the comments, what do you think about this story, about this mythology, and how you view this story, and what is your own personal interpretation, because I would really like to read about this. I want to know different point of views. See you in my next videos.